In the dead of night, when the world sleeps and the wind whispers secrets among the headstones, there are those who work the earth of cemeteries, grave diggers, whose lives unfold in shadowed silence. For most, the thought of digging graves is unsettling enough. But for those who have made it their profession, the stories run deeper, and the horrors are sometimes all too real. These are chilling accounts, whispered across generations, of what happens when the living tend the realm of the dead. One such tale begins in a small town where the cemetery lay on the outskirts, surrounded by ancient gnarled trees. The gravedigger, an old man named Eli, had worked the grounds for decades. He was known to be stoic, rarely speaking of his duties. But there was one night he would never forget. A night when the fog rolled in thick and heavy, muffling all sound. Eli was digging a new grave by lantern light, the only illumination, a trembling circle cast upon the earth. As his shovel struck something hard, he paused, expecting to find a stone. But when he brushed away the dirt, he discovered an old, rusted padlock, attached to a length of heavy chain running deep into the gravesite. Curiosity got the better of him. He dug further, unearthing the remains of a box, a coffin, but not like any he'd seen before. It was reinforced with iron bands, the wood splintered and rotting, but the padlock remained stubbornly intact. As Eli leaned closer, he heard a faint scratching from within. He froze, every instinct screaming at him to cover it back up, to leave it undisturbed. But something compelled him, a sense of duty perhaps, or a morbid fascination. He pried at the lock with his shovel, and as it finally snapped open, a gust of icy wind swept through the cemetery, extinguishing his lantern. In the darkness, the scratching grew louder, more frantic. Eli staggered back, his heart pounding. When the dawn finally broke, the grave had been filled, the earth smoothed over. Eli never spoke of what he found that night, but those who knew him said he was never the same, his eyes haunted, his hands always trembling. In another cemetery, far from Eli's, a young gravedigger named Thomas was new to the job, eager to prove himself. The older workers warned him of the so-called weeping grave, a plot where, on certain nights, the ground would seep with water, no matter how dry the season. Thomas dismissed it as superstition. But when he was assigned to dig a fresh grave near the infamous plot, he couldn't help but feel uneasy. As he worked, the soil beneath his feet grew damp, clinging to his boots. The air was heavy with the scent of decay and something else, a sweet, sickly perfume that seemed out of place. As dusk fell, Thomas heard a faint sobbing, so soft he thought it was the wind. But as the night deepened, the crying grew louder, desperate, echoing through the tombstones. Steeling his nerves, he followed the sound to the weeping grave. The ground was wet, the soil glistening as if freshly rained upon, though the skies had been clear for days. Thomas bent down, pressing his ear to the earth. The sobbing was unmistakable now, as if someone were trapped just beneath the surface. He scrambled back in terror, fleeing the cemetery. The next morning, a sinkhole had opened where the grave once was, the coffin within crushed and waterlogged. No one ever spoke of the weeping grave again, and Thomas never returned. Not all horrors are so obvious. Sometimes the terror comes in the form of things left behind, unexplained footprints, freshly turned earth where no one was meant to be buried. In one city cemetery, a gravedigger named Maria was accustomed to the strange and the unsettling. She had heard every story, every superstition, how the dead could not rest if their graves were disturbed, how some spirits lingered, angry and vengeful. But Maria was practical, dismissing ghost stories as products of overactive imaginations. One autumn night, as the leaves rustled overhead, Maria noticed a row of small graves, children's graves, long neglected. As she tended to them, she found tiny handprints pressed into the dirt, as if the ground itself had tried to hold on to something departing. That night, Maria dreamed of children's laughter turning to screams, of small hands grasping at her ankles, pulling her down into the earth. She awoke with a start, mud caked beneath her fingernails. She never tended the children's section after dark again. Then there is the tale of the Midnight Mourner, a figure seen only by those who dig the graves. In a remote, windswept cemetery, gravediggers began to notice fresh flowers placed on unmarked graves so old that no living relatives remained. Some believed it was the work of a kind-hearted stranger, but others whispered of the Midnight Mourner, a shadowy figure dressed in black who glided silently between the tombstones. One gravedigger, emboldened by curiosity, waited hidden behind a mausoleum one night. As midnight struck, a chill filled the air, and the figure appeared, moving with unnatural grace. The gravedigger watched as it knelt by a forgotten grave, tears falling onto the earth. He tried to call out, but his voice caught in his throat, paralyzed by fear. The figure turned, its face hollow and empty, eyes like dark voids. When the gravedigger finally found the courage to move, the figure had vanished, leaving only the scent of roses behind. Stories such as these pass from one gravedigger to another, each adding their own thread to the tapestry of horror woven through graveyards across the world. Some speak of the restless dead, of ghostly apparitions rising from the mist. Others tell of things not quite human, creatures that prowl the boundaries between life and death, waiting for the careless or the unwary. There are tales of coffins found clawed from within, of voices echoing up through the soil pleading for release. And always, there is the sense that the earth remembers, that the act of digging a grave is never merely physical, but a crossing of boundaries best left undisturbed. Yet, for all the terror, there is a strange kind of reverence in the work. Gravediggers, more than most, understand the thin veil that separates the living from the dead. They are keepers of secrets, witnesses to the final chapters of countless lives. In the darkness, among the tombstones, they listen to the whispers of those who have gone before, and sometimes, just sometimes, they hear something whisper back. So, the next time you pass a cemetery at night, spare a thought for the gravediggers, the silent sentinels who walk among the dead. For in the shadows, where fear and duty intertwine, the line between the living and the dead is never as clear as it seems. And the stories they carry, heavy as the earth they turn, are reminders that some graves hold more than bones. They hold the lingering touch of the unknown.